We have an appointment here. Angela Scott Ferson, to be considered for a 3-year term to begin March 15th, 2018, and end March 15th, 2020. Let's see here. Ferrenson. Okay. Any questions or comments regarding the appointment?
Make a motion, we move it to tomorrow night's meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So moved.
So they're just big because they have all this stuff on.
Okay. Okay, we've got the drug and alcohol advisor. Bear with me a second here, please.
The next one is children.
Yeah, I see that. It's not on my.
Oh, there's another one.
Oh, there's another one.
So the first one.
Oh.
On your list, you have the names.
Okay. All right. Stick with the list.
Yeah.
Apologize. I understand. Okay. So the next one under the children and youth is Suzanne Grassi. And the following one is Frank Pellegrado. And any comments for the other two? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion. Someone?
I would speak in favor.
Okay. All right. And do we have? Is everybody in agreement to that? Okay. Motion accept. Okay. And so moved. All right. Okay, moving on to the Drug and Alcohol Advisory Board. We have Jeanette Zuck to the appointment to the Drug and Alcohol Advisory Board. We need a motion.
Motion.
Question, a motion from Lori, and second. Okay, can we vote on the motion?
Yes.
So moved? Okay. So moved. Housing Authority. Mr. Galata is being considered for the 5-year term, beginning February 9th, 2018, and end February 9th, 2023, for the Housing Board. Any comments or questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion. Motion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So moved. Okay. No problem. I'm used to that. Okay. The next one is the Industrial Development Committee. Mr. O'Donnell is being considered for a 5-year term beginning March 17th, 2018 to end March 17th, 2023.
I know Mr. O'Donnell, so I will make a motion to approve or send tomorrow night.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay. The Atlanta. Okay, so we have Atlanta, Northampton, Lehigh and Northampton Transportation Authority. Mr. Cordelia Miller is being considered to finish the 5-year term. For someone who resigned, her new term will begin March 2nd, 2018, and then March 2nd, 2020. Any questions on this? And one more.
Wasn't she on this authority before? Okay, thank you.
It says reappointment.
That was my question. It says reappointment, but then she's finishing a 5-year term.
Well, it has it on the
So
bottom
I'm
of
kind
the
of
appointment.
confused.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm confused too, but she was on there before. She's
Yeah.
just,
I mean,
maybe
she's
not
certainly
somebody
well
else's.
qualified and everything. I just a
Yes.
little confused.
It does say reappointment.
I asked for her to be reappointed, but the only one that was open was a position someone had just resigned from.
So technically it becomes an appointment because it's not a reappointment to her position she was on. Okay.
So I recommend that we move her forward
I
with
second
it
it.
amended to appointment instead of reappointment.
Kevin Lynn.
And one more, okay, so
I'd
we'll,
like to make a motion we include both Ms. Miller and Mr. Lynn as one motion.
And I second it.
okay,
I'll third it.
all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and we'll change the reappointment to appointment for the first one, correct? Or for both of them? Just for one, okay.
Check.
All right, so moved. All right, Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. We have 1, 2,
Three.
3.
It's changing.
Okay, all right. 3 to the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. Melissa Davis. Ms. Davis is being considered for a 4-year term to begin December 31st, 2017 and end December 31st, 2021. John Diaconis. Diakionis
Hey, Leslie, you get to read
is
these
being
now.
considered for a 1-year term
Pronunciation guides here.
to begin December 31st and end December 2017 and end December 31st, 2018. And the third is Kevin Lott, is being considered for a 4-year term to begin December 31st, 2016 and end December 31st, 2021.
Yeah, Mr. Lott is a reappointment. He's been on the commission for years.
Okay. And the reappointment of Kevin Lott.
So
Any questions on those three for the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission?
Is Melissa Davis replacing Tom Nolan from Bethlehem Township? That? Yes? Okay.
I don't have that
Did he
answer.
not want to be on, or? Okay. All right, I mean, Tom was on for a long time. I didn't know if he stepped down or.
maybe he's retiring.
Just a quick question on here, that it says it's a 4-year term, but that's actually 5 years
Which one?
on, for Mr. Lott.
Okay. All right. We'll make that correction. Any other questions? Okay, motion to move.
Motion.
Second.
So moved. Mental Health Early Intervention and Developmental Program Advisory Board. We have one. Just one.
Frank Palagrudo.
Okay. We have Frank Palagruto is being considered for an appointment to the Mental Health Early Intervention and Development Program Advisory Board, and is being considered for a 3-year term beginning January 23rd, 2018, and to end January 23rd, 2021. Any questions? Nope. Okay. Motion?
Motion.
We have a motion? Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay. All right. We have the Revenues Appeals Board. Tom Carasi, Esquire. We have one. That's only one. Okay. Mr. Carasi is being considered for a 2-year term to begin December 31st, 2017, and to end December 31st, 2019. And this is to the appointment of the Revenue Appeals Board. Any questions? Motion to move.
Second.
All in favor? So moved.
Quick. Well, that was good.
Okay, we are to the court administration, and I think
Mr. Green is.
okay, are there any questions or comments regarding the creation of a full-time position to the pretrial officer in court administrations?
Mr. Green is
Yeah,
here.
Mr.
for-
Green is
Yeah,
here. He
Mr.
can
Green,
fill
would
us
you like
in
to
on this
address
one.
the committee?
Sure. My name is Liz Kelly. I'm the Director of Human Resources, and don't go far, Jermaine. I'm here to request that this committee consider the creation of a full-time pretrial officer position. Mr. Green is here, and also at the request of Judge Barada, the president judge, they've prepared a very nice memo we submitted to council to explain the need for the position, but Mr. Green can speak to that now. Mr. Green?
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Appreciate it. Council, thank you. Committee,
How
how
you
you doing? This position is the final piece of our enhancements to pretrial services and what we'd like to do and reform our bail policies. And what we're seeing right now is there's people being held with bail on low-level charges, such as possession of drug paraphernalia, retail theft, things of that nature, small amount of marijuana, and they're being held for extended periods of time. I'll give you an example. We had one a couple weeks ago. Ms. Renard, our pretrial director, brought it to my attention. There was a person, no criminal record, background record, first time possession of paraphernalia. It was $2,500 straight bail. Person was sitting in jail for 38 days. Maximum is 30 days incarceration. We have a problem. So I had that person brought over right from the prison, brought him to motions court, and we got the bail modified to an RR bail, told the person to show up to the formal arraignment. So what I've been doing since then, I've been probably before that, a couple months before that, I would pull a report from the prison with these types of charges, and that's what you have in front of you right now, the report I pulled on Monday. So you look at these reports, and right from the beginning, like number 2, and this is all public record, so you can pull this from, the UJS, it's public record, all these, everything you have here. So you have this person who's committed on January 10th, $10,000 bail, it's a theft for lawful taking. They could be released after the charge is complete to a detainer in Lehigh County. So why can't we resolve this case and get that person over Lehigh County instead of, racking up $106 a day in our prison? Then you look at number 2, committed January 10th, 2018, $2,500 bail for possession of controlled substance, ungraded misdemeanor, use, possession, paraphernalia, ungraded misdemeanor. Their formal arraignment is not till April 12th. So that person is going to be sitting there till April 12th at $106 a day. And there's no reason we can't address this. We need to do better. And that's why I'm doing this on the back end, but this pretrial officer can do it from the front end now. And when I say this is the last piece, we've put things in place already that we've upgraded our the case management system in pretrial with BTM. BTM is a company that specializes in case management systems for adult probation, DUI probation, and they did that for our adult probation and DUI offices. And now they're doing it for pretrial. So there will be synergy between those offices that all these officers are trained in a risk assessment tool, the ORAS. So they'll be able to do the risk assessment on these people. If they're low risk and they have these types of charges, we need to get them out of jail. It's going to save bed days in the jail, and when we do that, we won't need to build a new prison, right? We're not talking about building a new prison. We can save those days, right?
And there's one other expense that's not being seen here, and that is, in one of these cases I'm looking at now, has had an extended hospital stay.
Yes.
That just for a very low-level crime, just in deputies' overtime and costs for the hospital stay, we racked up $7,700 worth of man-hours toward that, not counting any sort of medical fees or the COs having transported them in the first place. So that's a huge expense for something, for a crime that's not.
And this has been something that other municipalities are doing now. I know Philadelphia it was on the news a couple of weeks ago, and that's funny, when this email came through, I had just saw that on the news. So
Philadelphia stole our thunder, I'll tell you that.
Okay.
I talked to a lot of the court administrators throughout the state and Philadelphia, and they got their DA to pass that there. Allegheny County is the leading jurisdiction right now, and Ms. Reynard and Judge Barada visited Allegheny County, they have a no bail system. I mean, they took it to the other nth degree. I mean, and Nina can explain that to you. But what we want to do here is something is long overdue. And this is definitely going to affect some communities harder than other communities. People don't have resources to make bail. They're losing their families. They're losing their houses. You know, they're getting backed up on child support. So it's becoming a systemic problem that we need to address.
Can I? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ron.
Sorry, I don't know if
Mr.
this is a
Heckman.
pertinent question or not. Looking at the bail amounts, is this run into any law? I mean, are the judges, are they forced to give certain bail amounts in certain situations? Or, I mean, I would think sometimes they could just give a lower bail.
Bail is arbitrary. It's really arbitrary, and that's why we want to give them this risk assessment tool that the pretrial officer in this position will be doing with each of these individuals. So they'll give the magistrate the tool and say, look, this person scored a low scale on our validated tool, and here it is. But they don't lose judicial discretion. They don't have to take the advice of the pretrial officer if the judge doesn't want to do that. They still maintain judicial discretion in setting bail. But we just want to give them another tool to let them know this is a problem that we're seeing.
Thank you.
If I may,
Thank you.
were they being, and I'm a supporter of this, I mean, of course, it's going to maybe save us money, and those people can be working for their families and, you know, all the other aspects, ancillary aspects.
Right.
But were they being evaluated prior to this program, the people coming in? They didn't spend the time with them, or they did?
Yeah,
Oh,
they
they were.
have. And what we're taking a closer look at it.
Okay.
And that's what we want to do with this. So on the back end, when I'm looking at this, I've been asking pretrial officers, our conflict attorneys who represent these people, if they see these type of cases, they're bringing it to me, and I'm getting them in front of the court within 36 hours during the week, and it's on the weekend, it's going to be 72 hours because I'm going to have them in court on Monday. And I also collaborated with Maria DeLuzio. I asked her to ask her staff in the PD's office to look out for the same types of situations. And we've been going back and forth, and we've had a couple cases that we collaborated and got the RR bail to get these people out here. So when I have this, I asked Nina and her staff to work it up and look who we can really address. And I believe you did that with this one, right?
We did.
And you have some numbers of
what
it's
I've
cost.
calculated on the bed days spending for these individuals, $91,000 we've spent housing these individuals.
Just these individuals right here that's in front of you right now.
Mr. McGee.
Sure.
I had a meeting with you and the senior judge and all about this a couple weeks ago.
A couple weeks ago, yes.
Right, and the money it's going to save us is going to way far and exceed pay for this person's position. And I don't see, you know, it's a great program. I mean, you got somebody in jail for disorderly conduct, unreasonable noise. Now, if you go against a magistrate on Friday afternoon for making unreasonable noise because you got paid and you're having your stereo cranked up and whoever the magistrate is in a good mood, they pop you in jail and you're there till Monday. That's 3 days you're in jail that we pay for. Correct. And with this person to be like the intervener or someone in there,
sure.
they won't be sitting in jail till Monday. They'll come to court Monday, but they won't be sitting in our prison waiting to get a bail thing. So I'm in 100% favor of it, and I think there's nothing that I saw in any meeting I was in that said that this should not pass or should not be fully supported by this council. You know, because it's less bed days, it's less prisoners. We're utilizing less of the prison, like you said, and there's overcrowding's done, all those kind of things. So there's nothing but, to me, it's nothing but upside. But I think we should. I'd like to make a motion to approve this for tomorrow night's meeting, and I think the full council, since everybody's here just about, should vote for it.
Okay. And on that note, Ms. Lori Margot Hefner.
You only have to use one name. It's really okay. I just wanted to ask, so this position does not exist at this time, so there's no one fulfilling this.
No.
And so how would it actually manifest? They would meet these people right at the court date or prior to the court date? Or?
No, the way it's going to work is the individual is actually going to be out at the central booking center.
Okay.
So this program that we're starting is designed to prevent these people from actually hitting custody.
Right.
So had we had this person in place at the beginning of the years, we'd already be up $90,000. That's just on bed day savings. There are additional costs that the prison calculates, $52 per person committed to the prison, so those are additional cost savings. And obviously there's social impact, like we've said, about housing, employment, child support, and there's also the stigma of going into custody. And if we can eliminate that, I think we're ahead of the game. And then additionally, what you also should know is 90% of these people will not be returned to custody to serve a punishment sentence. So we are preemptively punishing these people.
Because they're most likely to be probationary
Right,
sentences.
they're either
or-
probationary sentences or
fines and costs. Right.
Is there a job description that goes along with this?
The standard pretrial officer job position will apply. And everybody in my office, the officers currently I have, will be cross-trained on this job.
The other thing I want to mention to you is that, and I have communicated with the union, because the union right now, in their contract with pretrial officers, their hours of work is Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. But that's going to have to change because they're going to have to work weekends. And I've asked the union to write an MOU to me so we can have that understanding. And then it's going to be negotiated into the contract because the professionals contract is up the end of this year. And I'll work with Mr. Dertinger to write that MOU, and then we can, negotiate that into the, court professionals contract at the expiration of December 31st. So I just wanted to make sure that that was conveyed, that you understand that as well, just in case you get questions about that. You understand I've already made, taken care of that.
And I just want to also let you know that this program is not going to apply to violent felons. It's going to be to nonviolent offenders, low-risk offenders, misdemeanors, things like that. So we're not seeking to utilize this risk assessment tool on people with serious criminal charges.
And I would guess repeat offenders, well,
Correct.
maybe it would
I
be.
have one more question. Does this also apply to people who would be drug court or mental health court mandated or tracked as well, or not?
That is a post-trial program, so, but just so you know that we do supervision on these people now currently, so when we're meeting these people, they're raw, they're addicted, they're in the throes of their problems, and we already get them started in services. So this is something that we could get these folks started on services before they languish in prison for 35, 40 days.
Right.
Mr. Kusick?
Yeah, thank you. I think this is a good idea. But my question is that in Philadelphia, the initiative came out of the district attorney's office for this. Have we gotten any feedback or input from our district attorney's office with regard to this program?
No, this is a court program, and that's how we're initiating it, and it's going to be our program. So President Judge Barada wants it to go forward, and that's what we're doing.
Okay.
I'd like to say if Mr. Morganelli had a problem with it, everybody will hear about it instantly.
If he does, he can contact the court, and then
He's not shy.
And then my other question is, I think the only potential downside I've really thought of is, do we run the risk of people potentially not showing up, and then we have to, send out the sheriff's deputy to bring them for their court appearance? Is that a potential expense on the other side?
Sure, and that's a minor concern because, again, these people are going to be on supervision with my department, so they're going to be required to check in weekly. So we will keep reiterating and reminding them. We can send text messages now for court reminders. You're always going to have a percentage of people that don't show up, whether it's on a monetary bail or a non-monetary bail. Studies through the years have proved that money really it's not incentivized to the defendant, because most of the money comes from family members or friends. So we think that supervision is a much better tool to use than money, and that way they get their notices and we're staying on top of them.
Mr. Heckman?
We're still talking.
You didn't get a second.
I guess I'm still concerned. I think the position makes sense. But at the front end, with the judges, I'm looking at retail theft, and the judge, hits him with a $10,000 bail. I mean, I don't know the situation. I don't know. You obviously are the experts on the court's procedures. But it seems like there's twofold. One, at the front end, the judges, this is President Judge Barada's initiative, and he's into this. I'm sure he's discussing with the other judges how they would set bail to begin with.
These are magistrates.
Oh, I'm sorry, magistrates.
These are district magistrates.
And then that leads me to my second, just because I need to just want to understand. So the person's here, somebody gets picked up. We'll use Mr. Kraft's example. Now, Mr. Kraft is running around drinking after a dive, and his oxygen levels aren't right. So he gets a little unruly, like he does sometimes, and he gets picked up. And he goes to the magistrate and probably uses language he shouldn't. And so the magistrate's upset. And now, before he would be hauled over on $50,000 bail to sit over there, like it's a Friday night, are you saying your person's on call, like they would try and intercede before that even happened?
Our person's going to be there Saturday morning.
Oh.
Yeah, because what happens now is if you're taken into custody, if you're taken into custody at night by the police,
right,
you're dropped off at central booking. You don't see the magistrate until 7 a.m.
I see what you're saying.
So at 7 a.m. we'll have the line.
So you're going to find out right away.
Right.
And central booking, you're going to go.
So my person is going to go and meet individually and put them through this risk assessment, which is a tool that's validated on a national standards, and it seeks to take the bias out of examination of people. So.
And then they're there
Mr.
to make the
Kraft
recommendation
uses
to the
colorful language.
DJ.
That's actually not taken into consideration.
Okay, thank you.
So it takes
I
away the
appreciate that.
disparity and the bias in
Yeah,
the jail setting.
sometimes I'm slow on the pickup, but I get it.
I love your scenario.
And we understand, Mr. Heckman, that this risk assessment tool, it's going to be a culture shock to a lot of the magistrates and, even our judges. Even our judges. It is. No, it
I
is.
think you should come and give it at
We've talked
council.
about it
We
to
should
Judge
all have
Barada, and we've even said, look, it's going to be a learning curve because it's different. We haven't done this before. But they need to understand we're not taking away their judicial discretion.
I have a feeling this is going to
it.
be a luncheon with the president judge.
It may be. It may be.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a good thing. And it's a good thing that we need to address. Any other questions?
I commend the leadership of, what you guys are bringing to us here. And there's a motion on the floor. Do we have any more discussion, or can we second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Department of Fiscal Affairs, regarding creation of a full-time position of payroll administrator supervisor. At the request of Mr. Steve Barron, Director of Fiscal Affairs, please consider the following request: the creation of a payroll administration supervisor position, one meeting, full-time in the payroll department. Mr. Barron.
I think you said that very well. You don't need me, and Mr. Barron is here.
So just to clarify this, we're creating, if council chooses to, a full-time position of payroll supervisor. We're not adding a position. There is somebody who would take this position who is currently working in the payroll department. Little bit of history about this. This was a position that was created under the Stoff administration. Then it's since disappeared. We couldn't find a job description as they were rewritten and changed. So what the Stoff administration initially settled on, because the current people in the roles in the payroll department, one couldn't supervise the other. So therefore, they created a payroll 2 position and a payroll 1 position. Those job descriptions will still exist. This is in essence creating the new job description. One of the current incumbents who is a payroll 2 would become the payroll supervisor, and we have since hired somebody to fill a vacant position that was long vacant under the previous administration, and that person will remain a payroll 1. So we're still going to have 2 payroll positions. This person would just be named a supervisor in that department. Now, to fund this position, we haven't filled an accountant 2 for this year, so there's money in our budget. There wouldn't be a budget amendment for that. And then last but not least, to fund it in years going forward, the new payroll supervisor will take over the duties under the new ERP system of publishing and sending out the 1095 forms that we have to send out under the Affordable Care Act. We currently pay somewhere in the ballpark of about $20,000, I think, for that service. So therefore, we're not going to contract with a consultant for that anymore. And it'll be at putting this person in this position to be a supervisor and paid at an appropriate level will actually save the county money because she'll be doing that additional task. There will still be payroll position 1 and 2 as job descriptions, and it is the intent to have those as promotional positions within that skill set of jobs, as we do in several other positions in the county.
Mr. Heckman.
Actually, it's for personnel. We're only in the middle of March, and I have a question. We're in the middle of March, and I mean, we've already created a fair amount of positions, or rearranged them, which is fine. I don't have a problem. We need them. But at some point, could we get like a rundown, like how many, maybe by June or something? Because I have a feeling Mr. McGee's been pretty busy in his first 2.5 months as personnel chair, besides appointments with positions, changes, new. So I'd just like to get a sense of where we stand mid-year, just out of curiosity.
I think your question is absolutely fair, but I think in light of the past election and how things have changed, where we had a lot of positions that were unfilled or otherwise not being addressed, I believe Mr. McClure and a lot of the different new directors are addressing those issues that have gone long unaddressed. So that's kind of why.
I agree with you.
Whether it be Naria when she was coming in to make that half to a full and so on, there are a lot of needs, and certainly you've seen even the children and youth circumstance expanding because there is an absolute need for a lot of these changes.
I don't think we're going to see it slow down in the near future. And I understand, and that's been explained, how we found out jobs were pulled out of a budget that people actually wanted in. So I'm fine. I'm just saying, just to get a sense of it.
A lot of this has just been rolling in as people have reached that point where they just can't either keep up with the amount of work that's being required of them.
Right.
Even to a perfect example, which we will be keeping as a part-time job for the remainder of this year. Mm-hmm. In the Department of Weights and Measures, we have a part-time job there that the fellow has resigned from, and it turns out as a level of near insanity, the part-time person goes out on the truck with whoever's doing those duties, and because of the way that job was set, in the middle of the day, the full-time person has to drive that person back to the office to drop them off and then go back to their regular duties. So having a part-time job there just has someone as a also part-time chauffeur. So this is something else that would be addressed in the future, but for right now, that's one of them that we're not bringing forward. I mean, there's a lot of those situations that you see as you go across the entirety of this government. So yeah, that's
a common sense approach.
And again, I have no problem. I'm just as sitting here because you're in the middle of it,
right?
And on a day-to-day basis, I'm just want to get a sense. It's time,
as much as we can, but I think it's just a matter of uncovering rocks and finding out what's underneath them.
Yeah.
And we've been uncovering a lot of rocks here. So
there's always rocks.
And Mr. Heckman, just to be clear, this is not creating a new position. It's just reclassifying and making the job descriptions match what the people actually do, and then to be compensated accordingly. Okay. That's all.
Did my question sound controversial?
No. I'm just trying to make. I just wanted to make you aware that you won't see this as an added position.
Oh no, I understand.
Because we're not adding a position.
I understood you to be asking for a report.
Yeah. Somewhere down the road, not even a date.
Of 2018, and if you want one as we go along month by month.
No, I don't even need that unless somebody else. I was just trying to wrap my head around where we're going to be as we move forward because you know, you're doing what you need to do. You're doing your job. And I guess I'm sort of doing mine, too. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Coos?
Mr. Barron, you mentioned that there's an accountant 2 position that you expect to remain unfilled.
Well, it's been unfilled for part of the year. We're going to fill that eventually, but to pay for the salary increase for the remainder of this year, since the accountant 2 position has been vacant the first almost now 3 months of the year, there's enough savings in the budget to be able to cover the additional salary for the supervisor. And then going forward in future years, we won't have to hire that private entity to do the 1095s.
Okay. When does that contract for the private entity that does the 1095s expire?
I think it's like on a year-to-year basis. We can end it at any time within 30 days, but once we're in the new ERP system, if it's a report we can generate ourselves, and the data all resides with us, so there's just no module in the old system that's at end of life to be able to create and push out that report. So that's part of the problem, but it is there is that capability in the new system.
Make a motion?
Any other questions? A motion?
Sure.
Mr. Heckman? Second. Mr. Kraft?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. So moved. So tomorrow. Okay. Next, we have Department of Human Services, and okay, we're looking to create a caseworker 2 position in the early intervention unit. Caseworker 2, full-time pay in the early intervention unit, and
That is correct. I'm here, Liz Kelly from Human Resources.
Okay, thank you,
I'm afraid
Ms. Kelly.
Ms. Wondolowski couldn't be here, but she sent me plenty of information to back up these requests, including how much of these 4 position requests for the department will be funded by the state and how much will be funded by the county.
Okay.
So I have that available for you. But the reason for the request for the caseworker position is because the position is needed to reduce the size of the caseloads in the early intervention unit, which are now quite high and unmanageable. This is a position that will be reimbursed by the state. In fact, what I have here says 90% paid for by the state, 10% paid for by the county.
Okay.
Okay, would you like me to go on to the next position?
Any questions on that one?
Yeah, I just have one. I guess my question, I'm disappointed that she's not here. How many positions do we have unfilled at this time that could go towards reducing the caseload? Because it's been my experience here that one of the real problems we have isn't the number of positions, it's keeping the positions that we have filled.
Do you mean unfilled as in vacant and we can't fill them, or people are on leave of absence?
All of the above.
Okay, I suspect the problem may have something to do with leaves of absence that are, we really can't say no if someone invokes their rights under the Family Medical Leave Act. And I think that we have some employees who know their rights. But I don't know specifically in that department, so if you would like a more specific report, that's the mental, it has long initials, mental health, early intervention programs unit, and I can check and see what the status of the other positions as caseworker are.
May?
Would you like me to do that, Mr.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll be glad to.
Ms. Hefner?
I was at that meeting last week, and my understanding from that meeting, that we did discuss some of these positions, and a lot of these are positions that were requested previously that weren't pushed forward, and that this is direct pass-through money from the state. So, and she should be here tomorrow to address at the Human Services meeting, too. So if you want to ask her then, you could probably do so in her report.
And I may be able, I hope to be able to have the information for you on the other status of the other caseworker positions in that unit.
So you want to move along to the clerk typist,
Oh, sure.
please?
Do we need to
Oh, we
approve
wanna
these
do them all
each at a
together? You wanna do
time
one
or
at a time?
together?
Okay, we're going to have,
Motion to
entertain a
approve.
motion.
Second.
Ms. Hefner, Mr. Heckman, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved till tomorrow. The next one is the clerk typist.
Well, actually, we're eliminating a clerk typist.
Okay.
And creating a fiscal assistant.
Okay, so please consider the following request of creation of a fiscal assistant position, full-time, and the elimination of a clerical.
It's a clerk typist, although I apologize.
It's clerk typist, not clerical 2 position, and that'll be fixed in tomorrow's agenda. Okay, so it's really the removal of the clerk typist. Okay.
That's correct.
All right.
Yes, so that is a request. The information I have is the position being eliminated is currently vacant. Clerical duties are needed, but so are some fiscal-related duties, and the thought was by having a fiscal assistant, they can have one person who can do both the clerical duties and all of the fiscal-related duties, and eliminate the need to hire a clerical in addition to an accountant. The clerical they already have, the accountant they do not. So rather than create an accountant, create a fiscal assistant.
And is there any pass-through money here? Or?
Yes, hold on a minute. They're all different. This one is also funded 90% by the state, 10% by the county.
Any other questions about the elimination and the creation?
I make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Heckman, Ms. Wargo, Hefner. All in favor?
Aye.
To create the position and eliminate the position. Any opposed? Oh, sure, we had a question. Yeah.
Sorry.
Question.
I don't understand why this number, when you look at it,
Can you turn your mic on?
I don't understand why the position that's being eliminated is fairly the same pay, but then the total with salary down at the bottom shows a significant difference. I mean, the salary starts out 28,000, 24 for the eliminated position. The created position starts out 29,451. The benefits and everything else are fairly the same. The subtotal for personnel is 21,506. So
Good
then
catch.
this total with salary is 30,190, and then the total for the created position is 51,000.
That's a saving of $30,000.
Oh,
There's a
So that's
saving.
the
When it's in
savings?
brackets, it's a minus, so you put
Yeah,
that
but-
towards the new one, and the 21,506 is a wash because the benefits are exactly the same.
Okay, so that's why this one, so the
Yeah,
salary
that's
for
why
this
it
new
looks
position
different.
is
Yeah.
51,000.
But the
Because,
net change only shows 1,500, it doesn't.
yeah, the net change is $1,537 that we have to pay more for it. That's how that works. The brackets are negatives, and the other's the positive, and you get what it costs.
Yeah, so there'd be a $20,000 net change.
That is, Mr. Kraft is correct, but I think there's a mathematical error there, and I think that's.
I mean, I'm not a
Yeah, too.
mathematical
I
wizard.
think if you
but-
add $28,024 to the $21,506, it does not come out to $30,000.
Yeah, it's a
Right?
little, there's a
More like
mathematical, but it's, you
49
know,
or possibly
it's a
50.
Scribner's error.
You know what? When I see an error, I just want it explained, you know what I'm saying?
But that's how they do, they just put the negative of what they're
Good
saying.
catch.
Well, no, if you're
Good
going to
catch.
vote on it, it should be correct,
That's an
right?
excellent question.
They'll correct it tomorrow.
But the good news is, I believe that the number in the next column over is
The
accurate. And the difference,
$1,537.
the actual difference that was calculated is accurate. The only mathematical error I see is that one that you just pointed out.
Okay.
So I will correct that for
Thank
tomorrow.
you.
We should have added the 21
Thank
and
you
the
very
30.
much for that.
Good eye, good eye.
Give me another sheet for tomorrow.
Absolutely.
They should have added the 21 and the 30 together to make the difference. They didn't do that for some reason.
good catch. Any other questions?
Make a motion.
We don't want to move too fast here. This is good. Okay, motion,
No, that's already moved forward that.
this one here?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it already did, and then we had the question. I apologize. Okay. All right, moving forward here, the third one is the personnel request, human services, following creation of a clerical specialist or scheduler, full-time, and the elimination of 2 part-time positions.
Yes, that is for Graysdale Nursing Home. And it was actually the Assistant Director of Nursing who proposed this. By eliminating the 2 part-time positions, they would be able, which apparently they have but have been unable to fill, because as you see, no benefits would be included with those positions. They would be able to, they're proposing to create 1 full-time position, which would be a clerical specialist, There would be benefits with that position, so there's some financial impact. But they would get a person who could handle the scheduling of the nursing staff, because apparently right now, the assistant directors of nursing, there are 2 of them, are spending a great deal of their time calling nurses on the telephone and begging them to come and report for shifts because there is no one else to make these phone calls due to the fact that they haven't been able to fill the 2 part-time positions. So I think what we've learned from that is that those 2 part-time positions really didn't work for us like the way we had.
Do you know how long they were in place, the 2 part-time positions?
No, I really
Okay.
don't. I've been told that one's been vacant for over a year, but I don't know about the other one. I can probably find that out for tomorrow.
It'd be
Would you
nice
like
to
me
know. Sure.
Okay.
Just curious why they didn't fix it a long time ago. Because it sounds like it's going to cost us some money, but
Right.
it'll improve the services, apparently.
It
Any-
sounds like.
And
there's
at
a
least take
problem.
nurses who are supposed to be supervising other nurses on the units away from making phone calls,
Yeah.
which I think probably could effectively be performed by a clerical specialist.
But you have to beg nurses to come in?
This is what I'm told by the assistant director, those who are doing the begging. Well, I think what they mean by beg is, they're probably talking to a nurse who may have already worked a full shift, and they're asking this nurse.
Like, please
to work
come in
another-
again. I get it.
Oh, sorry.
That's not your
Yeah.
fault.
Okay. Mr. Kuzic,
May I ask a question about this? You had mentioned that these are assistant directors. Do we have a director of nursing at this point in time?
No, but I know they are actively interviewing.
Okay, so my sense is I'll probably be voting no, because I would rather hear from the director of nursing before we move ahead with adding a position. Thank you.
okay, any other questions? All right. Do we have a motion to move? Motion. All right. Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Put that on tomorrow's agenda, so moved. All right, where was we? And the last one, is it the last one? No, not the last one. The next one. The next one. We are creation of the following position classifications: accountant for human services, 1 full-time, pay grade HS 35. Attached, please find a calculation of the financial impact of this request.
Okay. This accountant position is being requested in order to have a person to perform what they call risk assessment, cost settlement, and retained earnings processes. I can tell you that for some reason, the accountant would be reimbursed 98% by the state, and so the county share of that position is 2%.
What?
Yeah,
The funding, the DPWs, it's hard to figure. I'm sorry. It's hard to figure out their funding strategies at times. I mean, it was always like you get like mental health, for example, was 100%, but the deal was when you spend your allotment, you're done. If you spend it in October, tough on you. Children and youth, I think, was more at the time. A lot of times was 90-10. For every $10 we spent, they spent 90. And then it varies. But then there's these little notches in human services. But for the most part, yeah, the positions are primarily funded for the most part from the state.
So is that state? No. Well, I guess not.
Yeah, it's state money direct pass-through.
I mean, and actually
Except for
that's
98, it's 98 to 100. So
that, if I
minus
may,
2% is ours.
when Ms. Hefner has a Human Services Committee meeting, that may be an interesting topic especially for council and a refresher, but for new people, about how the funding shares work in different divisions. I'm just saying.
Perhaps next time.
Perhaps
We already
next time.
created the agenda
Well,
for tomorrow, but thank you.
You're in charge. I'm just throwing it out there.
So could you just, one more time for me, just so it sinks in, the financial impact, this position helps us do what again?
perform risk assessment, and this is all in the mental health early intervention
Oh, okay, so,
program.
yeah,
okay?
that's important stuff.
risk assessment, cost settlement, and retained earnings processes. I believe that all pertains to their accounting for the federal money that passes through the state and comes here to
Okay.
pay for this.
Okay, so
You
we
know,
have
they
to
like
give them
see a nice-
reports and, sure, and justify and everything. Okay.
Exactly.
I understand. Okay.
As well as federal dollars, sometimes that comes direct, as
Oh,
opposed to
okay. Thank you.
as opposed to funneling through the state. I don't know, I'm
You know
speaking
more
out of
about
turn.
this
I don't know if I know.
No, you do.
Any other
I don't
questions?
know about that.
Motion to approve.
Motion?
Yeah.
Okay, second.
Sure.
All in favor?
All right.
Okay, so moved. Okay, the following creation of a MR Program Specialist 1 position, full-time.
Okay, this position is being requested because of an increase in waiver management.
Translation.
Yes, translation is, I believe, the waiver is, for people who have MR, they can have, I'm not sure if the right title is caregiver or
They have a choice.
personal assistant, I'm sorry?
They're allowed to go out and they can use the county service, or they can take their waiver and go out and
And get
find
their
somebody
own.
else.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at. Thank you very much,
I'm,
Mr.
I got to turn my mic off. Sorry.
I just didn't, I wasn't unsure of what to call the service itself that they're receiving. I would call it a caregiver, but that may not be the actual title. That's what it is, and it sounds like they're saying we have an increase in demand. I'm sorry that I can't tell you whether this increase in demand occurred 6 months ago or more recently, but I can find that out and report tomorrow.
May I ask a question?
Yep. Mr. Hackman.
I just want to say, and I know we're going over each one, and actually that's going to be a question I have for maybe Mr. Kraft, Mr. Kusick. I could remember a time I thought we could lump all these positions if they were in one department, but I mean, apparently we can't. But that being said, if we can't, we can't. Excuse me. I think, in fairness, and by the way, you know every bit as much as I do at this point. My wife tells me I forgot more than I remember. But the point is, these positions, and I know we look at direct service like caseworkers and that, but what you're pointing out, some of these clerical positions and the human service fiscal, they're critical. I mean, if you don't, and this is this old adage of we can do more with less, which is nonsense. I mean, unfortunately, however you want to look at it, if it's from creating positions, this is a very labor-intensive area. I mean, if you don't get your state reports right, they'll ding you. They don't care. If you don't get your federal reports right, they'll ding you. And I mean, I've seen it happen, and it's over minor. They is
State.
the state. The state.
Or the feds, or
no,
whoever.
the feds, whatever.
Is holding
Big
the
brother,
purse strings.
the man, you know, however you want to describe it. But they'll come in, and they really don't, you know, they're pretty ruthless at times, and you can say we're helping people, and they smile and walk out the room. I mean, so I'm just throwing that out there. I think that, you know, what you're doing and this ties into what I asked earlier about positions. It's not anything critical. It's other than the fact that human services, I know people have monkeyed over the years, and especially when fiscal affairs gets involved, some of the professionals in fiscal affairs will say the best way to save money is to cut human service positions and this and that. And they really don't seem to have a grasp on what it is that they're trying to do over there. So that's always been a rub between fiscal affairs. I'll throw it out. I got nothing to lose at this point. But that's how it's always worked. Fiscal affairs, human services, there's always been this thing. And I think all these positions, even though I can't see how they're not needed, I think it's a mistake not to fill these positions. That's all. I'm done.
Okay,
I'm turning
thank
off.
you. Thank you. Any other questions about this important position that needs to be created?
Motion. To
Motion?
approve.
Ms. Hefner, second by someone off the committee?
Second.
Second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All-
Thank
Okay,
you.
so moved. Thank you very much.
I know.
Okay,
It's just kidding.
we're through it. Yeah, we just hired a whole bunch of people. No, not yet. We got to get through tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, correct. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
So
just,
that does the human services.
So one more discussion.
He knows everything. I'll tell you.
Okay, all right, so now we move into topic number 4, discussion regarding the compensation of elected officials. We have an ordinance from Mr. Cusick and Mr. Dietz that basically says Northampton County Home Rule Charter, Section 106, compensation provides that the county council shall have the power by ordinance to set the salaries of each elected official. No ordinance shall increase or decrease the salary of an elected official during his or her term of office. No ordinance which increases or decreases the salary of an elected official shall take effect less than 1 year before its date of enactment. Now, therefore, it is hereby ordained and enacted by the Northampton County Council that effective January 1st, 2022, the county executive of the County of Northampton shall be compensated on a per annum basis in the amount of $95,000. Number 2, effective January 1st, 2020, the members of Northampton County Council shall be compensated on a per annum basis in the amount of $10,500. The president of the county council shall receive an additional $500 per annum as compensation for his or her responsibilities as presiding officer. And effective January 1st, 2020, the county controller of the county of Northampton shall be compensated annually based on the amount of $75,000. It is further ordained and enacted that the resolution that the Northampton County Council shall review the salaries of all Northampton County elected officials within 4 years of the effective date of the ordinance. Do we have any discussion on this ordinance? Mr. Cusick?
Sure. I was here the last time we did it and the last time we reviewed these. The county executive's salary will have remained the same for 3 consecutive terms. The last time we did this, we raised the executive salary from 65 to 85. And for Mr. Stofa's second term, for Mr. Brown's term, and now for Mr. McClure's first term, the compensation will have remained the same. And for someone that has a $350 million budget and 2,200 or so employees, that's woefully less. And as we saw when we approved some of the cabinet members, I think almost all the people sitting here are making more than their boss. That's great if you're the manager of the Yankees, but for the county executive, that's probably not a good thing. Similarly with controller and council, I just think it's important that we do these all at the same time. For controller, I think now that we're going to have an open position, I'm hopeful that we attract, and if we also change that wording for part-time, that we attract quality candidates to run for the office. I don't want to see somebody have to run a write-in and then drop out or something, as we saw last time. So, that's where I'm at with it. It's been quite some time, and I think these are fair.
Any other question?
I have something I'd like to add. I personally feel that this needs to be taken out of the purview of county council 100%. I feel that we shouldn't be voting for these raises, and I also feel that this little ticking time bomb or this football that gets passed around every so many years is a gross oversight with the writing of this home rule charter. Okay? So I think that we should put a thing on the ballot, we should put a question on the ballot whether we should change Section 106, compensation. And I'd like it to read something, and Mr. Spadoni will fix it for me. But county council shall have the power by ordinance to set the salary of each elected official. Okay, keep that the way it is, because you have the power to set the salaries of elected officials. But then, basically, I want to strike everything else, and the salaries of the elected officials shall be tied to the consumer price index and increase accordingly every year. And it's never a political football anymore, because if we had the county executive tied to the CPI when he started, I think Mr. O'Hare did the math, he'd be making the proper amount of money right now. We wouldn't be having this. And then every time we come, whoever's in charge, with John, it was all Republicans last time we tried to do it. And you know, it's this whole thing like, oh, they're looking for a raise for themselves. I'm not looking for a raise for myself. I want the people to say in a vote whether this is just compensation for the job. Okay? So I'd like to see the wording that you have, Mr. Kuzic, for 1, 2, and 3 be on the ballot to set the salaries. There would be 4 different questions. You know, shall the, you know, effective whatever be paid $95,000? Or actually, it doesn't even have to put a start date, because if you get rid of this, we're not giving ourselves a raise. They are. They're doing it. The public's doing it.
Question for you.
What's the question?
Are you going to withdraw this tomorrow and then presenting a new ordinance? Not tomorrow, because I can't get it.
Well, that's why we're having this discussion, because I think it should be 4 separate issues. And I know Mr. Pizzoni's taking notes. He's got mine like a trap. But I want to amend Section 106 on this, you know, primary election that comes up, to read, you know, that the county shall have the power by ordinance to set the salary of each elected official, and those positions shall be tied to the consumer price index for future increases. That's it. Get rid of all the other nonsense that's in there. I don't know why they did it all. It doesn't make any sense, because we're not going to be voting for increases for ourselves anymore if there's a CPI. Then you want to set the salaries at 95, starting 10.5 and 75, the way we have. That's 4 separate questions on the ballot, and let the people vote. If they say no, they say no. You know, I'm not here to, you know, give myself a raise. You know, I think personally everybody should be compensated the right amount of money for the job they're doing. County executive number 1 is grossly underpaid. It's never going to be fixed, because everybody's going to vote, no, you can't do it, or, you know, it's a political thing. So I think this should be withdrawn. John and I are...
Well, it's got to be withdrawn tomorrow.
Right, because it'll come up. But we can talk about this and figure out how to put it on the ballot, and then bring it back for 2 weeks from now with the proper wording for each 4 altogether, and have this done once and for all.
So I guess the question is, do we vote, do we not move this right now?
It has to be.
I think you still have to have a discussion.
Well, I mean, we can move this forward, but
You can table it.
I'm
if
going
you
to
don't
make a
want
motion to table this until we can, you know, from this committee. I'm not saying that this committee should put this forward to county council tomorrow night.
No,
I think
it
we need
has
to
to
work
be,
it.
because it's a
All right,
public
well, it
hearing
has to be.
tomorrow.
But I'll probably table it, but I don't want to table it to get rid of it.
After the public hearing.
If we wait to introduce it, we'll have enough time to be on the ballot?
Yeah.
Wait, Matt, could you say that? I'm sorry. I didn't
So
hear you.
if we wait, you know, so obviously if you decide to table it tomorrow,
Yes.
so the first week in April, you'd present something, you'd have to vote on it. The second week, you only have like 2 or 3 weeks until election, or no, you have a month.
We'll have
I'll
enough time to
check
get it
with
on.
Dee to make sure.
We'll have, and if we run out of time, we'll put it on the general ballot. This needs to be done. This is just ridiculous. I mean, and if we keep doing this, no matter who's here, future, talking, you know, way after Peg and I are gone, you know, like the aquarium,
That means you're
this
staying.
won't come up anymore. Why should this be a political football every time? Because, you know, every time John and I have tried to do this, it's been nothing but they're trying to give themselves a raise.
This isn't for the current.
Yeah,
No,
this isn't
it's
for us.
never
anyway.
the
Never
next
anyway.
election.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Mr.
this should be, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean,
I was just questioning that whether that would make this May one, which doesn't really matter because
Right.
it's not for next election anyway.
because I'd like to see go out and let them vote. If they think, you know, you're not worth the salary of a dog catcher, that's, you know, what they think.
So would it be a one-time vote or?
No, it
So
would be a
the-
vote, and then it would set after, if they do all 4, I don't know what they're going to pick. They might pick 1 and leave the other 2, you know, at the same salary as they are, but they might say 106, how we amended it, they'll amend it, and then they'll be tied to the consumer index. And then it'll slowly go up every year, you know, in perpetuity, like it should have with the county executive since this home rule charter was written in 1979 or whenever that
Just
was.
just out of curiosity, so had this been enacted, or what would the salaries look like? You know, tied to the.
If it was tied to the, Mr. O'Hare, you did the math.
Are we relying on his math?
Listen,
No offense, no
took
offense.
the work
but
to
I
do
mean-
the math.
Yeah.
I mean,
If
it
you
might
would like
be,
to
it
come
might,
up,
it might be.
Just out of curiosity, I mean, we could run it, but I was just curious. I mean,
We're using our resources.
do you think?
It would be.
Don't rely on my math.
I think for at least for the council members, it could become a bloated number.
My recollection from when I did it the last time is actually it is very close to what a judge gets,
Right.
which I think is appropriate. I think it's entirely appropriate for the county executive to be
No, I'm
paid
gonna put you on.
an amount equivalent to what a co-equal branch of government is paid.
And that's what
You know.
we tried to do that last time. But
And the judges, their salary is tied to the consumer price index. That's why I think that
so is the district attorney.
that's correct.
The only
That's why-
elected officials that aren't tied to the consumer index are county council,
and then it
county
becomes a
executive.
political football.
And
Every-
the thing, and because they made it a football. They made it some political hot potato. And Ron's been involved in that political hot potato, because you probably were here when you brought the home rule charter in roll. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Heckman has something, and then Ms. Hefner.
Anyway, number one, if it doesn't make this primary, it still can be, I mean, so
Yeah, I
that's
said
not
that
an
you could do
issue,
it in
number
general
one.
election, yeah.
Number two, I think we really need the solicitor to look at this, only because, and just on first blush, you're leaving the line in that says we're going to, you get to set, and there's a number, but then you're pretty much changing everything, and I don't know if, in the spirit of the law, we may be invalidating that section of the charter totally. And that's why I'm just saying, that's why I don't think, there's some things we do that we need to do right away, and there's some things that we do, again, we're only in the second meeting of March, that we don't have to do right now. And this is one of those. And the third thing is that, I don't know. I'm just, I'm confused on this.
I don't
so I think we need more research.
I don't think we're changing the charter if the people vote to change the charter as written on a ballot. That's how the charter was enacted, and that's how you amend the charter, by having a vote by the people. So I think that's the best way to do it.
Ms. Hefner?
I don't have any problem with us dealing with the executive or the controller, although I've heard the arguments that have been made. But that's our job, is to set salaries for other people. The part that I have a problem with is setting the salary for ourselves, because again, it is March, most of us just got here, and it looks like we're trying to pad a raise for ourselves, and that's not what we're here for.
You're not. It's till the next election.
You won't see it unless.
Well,
Unless you were here.
That's why it's a political football.
But I do
it's still,
agree.
we're setting a salary for our position.
Right.
And so,
Actually, we're not. The voters are. It goes to a ballot.
if we do it your way, if we do it this way, which I'm still on today,
Oh, okay.
then we are doing it this way. So I'm just
I'm
trying to talk.
tabling this.
Well, the voters are still to say, because in your next election, they'll say whether or not you should.
No, we're not doing that. Then you just have the same problem.
I have the floor,
I don't mean
thank
that. I
you.
mean, if this enacts, if you get reelected, the voters have said that you're justified to, you know what I mean, you're qualified to get that salary, is my opinion. You know what I'm saying? If they don't think that you're qualified to make that raise, they won't vote you in again, is my point.
No, I know I'm qualified.
So my point was that, and I don't disagree. I understand why you're doing it. I hear that it's a time issue. I agree with the issue on the executive. That salary needs to be raised. It's unfair that that person is making less than anybody else that serves with them. And the same thing for the controller, which we identified last time. So I don't know if you could take this out and change this. And again, if you're going to change this whole section in the Home Rule Charter, then maybe we can't do any of it. I'm not sure. But I would just not be in favor of raising this position's salary at this time, and I would prefer that go to a referendum.
All three?
Our
Just the
council
council.
seats. I would,
Oh, okay, four.
and again, I think I agree with Ron with why now? Why this, why now? We have time.
You know, the other part of this, if I may, Mr. McGee, if we were to say to any county executive, hey, we're going to raise your rate, well, he's going to veto that. Because you know what that's going to happen in 3.5 years? They're going to say, yeah, you took a raise for yourself. So again, it's a political football. No matter what you do, it's a no-win situation. So just, I'm motioning to table this tomorrow and put it to the voters, make 4 referendums on the ballot. Hopefully we can make it, and if we don't, we'll do it next time. But if we keep doing this year after year after year, it's like we're in a never-ending circle. It's never going to end.
So can I ask a point or a question about procedure? So you're saying this has to be heard as it is tomorrow?
Tomorrow that has to be done, the public hearing has to be held, and then a decision can be made as how to proceed.
Whether to vote yes, vote no, or vote to table?
Correct.
Okay.
We can also vote to amend, correct?
Right.
And then we can amend.
But that's a pretty big change.
But
That's a
then
pretty
if
big
there's a
amount.
lot of changes, it'll be better just to table and review.
Okay.
But his point is you could.
Yes.
But as the Personnel Committee, we can vote to put it forward, but vote no to recommend
Well,
it.
you really don't have to vote.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, it's here to discuss.
If everybody votes no, is it dead then?
If we table it, it's not dead, it's
No, if you
tabled.
table it, it's dead, but if it's not dead, but if you
If
go
everybody
to a
votes
vote,
no, then it's a
Dead.
moot point.
Oh, yeah.
And if we
don't.
table, it's in purgatory. I'm sorry.
Limbo.
Well, limbo.
Purgatory if you're Catholic.
Purgatory.
They took limbo
Okay.
away?
John, the nuns told me I was going to spend a lot of time in purgatory, so it seared into my brain.
If I could, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Spadoni.
There is issue number.
Can you turn your mic on?
There is issue number 5, I believe, and I haven't talked to Mr. Kusick or Mr. Dietz about this. The last paragraph appears to bind, not the last paragraph on the first page, I'm sorry. It says as follows: it is further ordained and enacted that the Northampton County Council shall review the salaries of all Northampton County elected officials within 4 years of the effective date. That appears to be binding a further council, which may be problematic. And maybe we should talk about that when we address this issue as to how that's handled.
Okay.
I'm concerned that any resolution or any ordinance would bind and tie a future council. Hopefully you're here, you may not be.
So there's 5 actual pieces then.
It's another issue. It's not, I don't think you're considering that, but it's certainly a concern. And I haven't talked to either Mr. Kusick or Mr. Dietz about it. I intended to. I apologize for that.
Well, the reason I didn't bring that up was because if we put it on the ballot, that is a moot point because it'll be tied to the consumer index price, and you don't ever have to discuss or review this again.
I'll just say that this ordinance is nearly identical to the one that we
did.
passed 10 years ago.
You're
so-
right. It's
I
absolutely.
looked at that.
And if I could just ask a follow-up to Mr. Spadoni when he does his research. You said about binding a council, and that's come up at different times, more so since I've been on than when I was on. Pretty much everything we do binds a future council when we pass the various laws. I'm just curious. I mean,
The factual scenario could be that you pass this ordinance and council has to review this in 4 years. And they say, we don't want to. What happens? Some resident says that you are not following the laws and the regulations of council. They file an action in court known as mandamus for you to do that. I am concerned about that, but I will get back to you with Mr. Dietz and Mr. Kusick concerns. I'm sure we'll be able to work through that.
Is that because you use the word shall and not will or should?
Good.
May. Shall and may is the dichotomy.
Okay, so does anybody have any other discussion on this? So do we have a
You
motion?
don't need anything,
We don't need
because
anything.
that was already done.
We're not going to table it, we're tabling it, we're
No, we
moving it?
can't.
It's just going to go tomorrow.
Yeah, this is just a discussion
All right,
topic.
good enough. No more discussion? Okay.
Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
That's next
Can I
one.
do
Bear
that?
with me.
We're not even halfway.
Well, Bill can. He's the head of it.
We have another resolution.
That's
No, that's not
You're
yours.
Is that you? Okay, adjourn. Finish with a bang.
I understand. What we have to do is write 4 of them.
And then this one, to make it tied to the CPI. I want to rewrite 106. Let them vote on it.
And what I have to look at is they're tied to the CPI.
No, this is for,
Oh, no.
all right, so if we're,
that's what I want to do.
if anybody wants to
We do this one alone.
take a break that refreshes, you should do it. 30 seconds. Otherwise, I'm segueing right into the Finance Committee meeting.
Excuse myself at 6 o'clock, and I apologize.
Oh, well, you're fine.
I excused myself earlier because my grandson's at home waiting for me.
Okay. All right, fine. Well, you're not on the committee, so it doesn't really matter to me. But okay. All right. I'm going to call the Finance Committee meeting to order. First item is courtesy of the floor. Is there anyone who wants to address the Finance Committee meeting under courtesy of the floor? Seeing no one, we're going to move on to consideration of funding from administration to the Northampton County Easter egg hunt. I will read the resolution. It is hereby resolved that Northampton County Council approves the allocation of $800 from the Department of Administration's 2018 budget to the Northampton County Sheriff's Department to be used for the Northampton County Easter egg hunt, which will be held on March 24th, 2018. Is there a motion?
Recommendation to approve.
Okay. Discussion? Second?
Eggs.
Yeah, we do it every year.
No, they do, they give prizes.
Do the whole kids thing every year.
Candy.
Do we want Mr. Derringer to talk about it or not? Or is it important that he do?
It's really nice. We've been doing it every year for.
No.
I anticipate the deputies will be here tomorrow to explain that. If they have to ask you for it, so yes.
Don't splurge on the coloring. Okay.
A lot of eggs.
It's actually, Mr. Krause, it's been done. I'm glad it's still doing.
We do it every
They're plastic
year.
eggs and they have candy
We do it every
inside,
year.
and then they have ones that have bigger stuff for bigger prizes.
All right. That's a good point to ask him tomorrow, Tara. So we've had a motion. Is there a second? Recommend to move it on. All in favor? Good. All right. Controllers reports. Oh, boy. I see that Mr. Zaborski is here. I don't know. Let's just go down. We have dental claims.
Well, he comes up and talks.
All right. Department of Corrections, why don't you just come on up? And
Can I ask a question before you start? Some
You
of these
can do anything
have
you
John
want.
Brown as executive on them and different counsel?
When they were
When they were
completed.
done?
yeah.
That's the end of that question. Thanks.
All right. Mr. Controller, would you like to?
Sure. I'll
Give us
go
some
over
info.
each of them with you. I'll be brief.
Sure,
So we're not-
okay.
Okay. The dental claims, this audit report is done every 4 years. And I'll just go over some of the highlights of it. As you know, the county entered a contract with United Concordia Companies for third-party administration of the county dental plan. We pay a per-person fee of I believe it's $220 a month for them to operate the program. A couple of the things that we found on the audit results were we compared the list of eligible lists to the county's list, and we found that some people are still on the UCC list and are not on the county list because of retirement or are no longer working here, which means we're paying extra money for those which we don't have to. This was brought up to management, and they have taken care of the problem, and it has been addressed and resolved. The other observation was violation of county policy, which was number 2. Benefits and assistance were paid to more than one family member when more than one family member is employed by the county. There was a situation where a mother and daughter worked for the county and had the granddaughter was under both of their plans, which that too has been resolved. There was no issue of fraud there. It was a mistake, and that has been taken care of. And the third one was a confusion regarding the contractual agreement. It seems that we have an agreement with originally from 2001 with UCC, and then in 2016 the county executive signed an executive order which once again awarded the contract to UCC, this time through LVBCH, the Lehigh Valley Business Coalition on Healthcare, for a reduced rate. So we're trying to get that resolved, and I understand that following the issue of this draft, the county purchasing manager informed us that in response to our decision on the matter, an addendum to the original contract from 2001 has been signed on July 13th, 2017, which incorporates the necessary wording from the administrative code. So that has been resolved. Any other questions on the dental audit?
Yeah, just real quickly, the biggest issue with either the dental claims or the health claims, every time this comes up, is people that are getting benefits that are no longer eligible.
correct.
And I think it's an issue for HR as well as the controller's office. And I guess what I noticed here, it says there were 34 ineligible. I mean, that's a lot, isn't it? I mean, so I guess with a number that large, there has to be somewhere that a mistake is being made. Has that been identified? Is it an HR issue? Is it can you address that?
So, yeah. So wearing, for what we used to do before, as I was the controller, implementing a continual auditing process into this system will eliminate that. So this was the last contract as I was leaving the controller's office that this needed to be put in place. So now, as we get the information from United Concordia, we can compare the lists every 6 months to make sure we're not paying those additional administrative fees. In most of those cases for the new council members, claims aren't being made under those numbers. There were some times where that did happen in the healthcare specifically, and actually one time we were reimbursed by Capital Blue about $100,000 because they're the ones who did that. This 6-month process, though, the controller's office has a program that will allow us to compare the files, kick out exceptions, and then HR can take care of them. It makes it a very, very simple and almost automated process. So these things won't keep appearing in audit reports. This report specifically was the last contract for healthcare that we had to do that. The additional cost to the county is that administrative fee of $2.20 per person. That's where the additional cost comes in. And when you have people that languish on that file for, years and years, that's when it gets to be very expensive.
Yeah.
But the continuous auditing will be part of that. And there are people in HR who have worked with, I believe Tony Sabino uses ACL in the controller's office.
Yeah, I think the key issue is always when someone is separated from employment, ensuring that they go through the checklist, and we get them off all the benefits in a timely manner. And you're right, but it seems to always be an issue where some people somehow slip through the cracks. I don't know. Again, whether it's a fiscal, HR, or what, where the confusion is, I don't know.
Between Liz and I, we're going to make sure that those folks get moved off quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on that? I have a question, Mr. Zaborski.
Yes.
Well, it's actually two. One is, echoing a bit of what Mr. Kusick said, it did seem this is something, whether you're new or old, had always seemed to be a problem. And I guess what I'm hearing Mr. Barron say is that between fiscal and human resources, which actually this eventually falls to, there's going to be a system in place to catch this. But I'm wondering, is it the departments, the individual departments, let's say a caseworker leaves, should they be filing a timely report? Is there something missing in the timeline or with paperwork-wise that this has happened? And I'm only saying it because it is true. This has happened. Well, I'll go back to 90. From my experience, this has been going on since 1990.
It used to be, to go back to 1990 and beyond, it used to
and
be
some of you were alive, so don't make a big thing of it.
It used to be a workflow issue. We
Okay.
didn't separate people consistently throughout the entire county. So fiscal affairs would do it one way. Human services would do it another. The administration would do it another way. If you were a union member, you might have a different exit. So now, under the workflow, there's more uniformity and consistency, and that all goes through human resources.
Okay.
Now, it's not a perfect system. Things do fall through the cracks. So this added layer of comparing the list every 6 months will make sure that those extra things that do ultimately cost us money will not continue to languish. If that
No, it makes sense. And I don't want the good to get perfect to be the enemy of the good. We're not going to catch 100%. But it seemed at times that we'd get audit reports. They'd say, well, this is the problem, but then the next time it came up, there'd be issues. But the other question is dental. Just confirm for me. I know we're self-insured. Is dental part of that self-insurance? County pays dental as well.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you. Any other questions? All right.
Okay.
Well, sorry. Yeah, let's go to the next one.
Next one?
Sure.
Okay, next one is the Department of Corrections Community Corrections account.
Okay.
This was an audit of the financial transactions for the Community Corrections account, which covers work release and house arrest. Under the observations that we found is the bank reconciliations for the Community Corrections account had not been performed since March of 2017. This was because the jail's accountant accepted a accounting position in fiscal affairs, and that position was not filled. So nobody was doing the bank reconciliations. That has been addressed with the Director of Corrections, and I understand that that is going to be taken care of. The other thing we found is under policies and procedures is for many years inmates employed in the work release program were paid by company employer checks, which were sent directly to the correctional institution, the CCF. But unfortunately now today they're getting paid with direct deposit, and there's nothing in the handbook that addresses being paid by direct deposit. And our recommendation was that the code should be updated to reflect that method of payment, and the Community Corrections Coordinator has put an addendum in the revision that will be included in the updated handbook, which will be available, updated shortly in the beginning of 2018, so that will be addressed. And then the other recommendation was the funds transferred from the West Easton Treatment Center. Receipts are collected and then taken back to CCF, where the receipts and corresponding receipts are brought back, where they are reconciled and deposits are made. And again, our recommendation was that the funds would be safer if the reconciliations and receipt sheets were done in the presence of a correction officer before they're removed from the West Easton facility. And again, that was, as soon as we brought that up to the attention of jail management, that was verified and changed immediately. Those were the findings for the Community Corrections account. Any questions on that one?
Thank you.
Okay, next one is drug seizure account. This is a new bank account that was created in January of 17. It's the first time audit for this account. Seized cash from drug busts were held in local prison evidence lockers. And this was done to make them more available, to put them in the county. We have a Detective Stevens who handles it. So now when there's evidence money, it's put in. He meets twice a week with the local police departments at Lafayette Ambassador Bank in downtown Easton, where the money is put into the account. That is put in there until it is released to go to the forfeiture account by a judge. And the only thing that we found there was we noted that the police seizure reports can easily be deleted from the database by anyone with administrative access to the system. We made a recommendation that only Detective Stevens have the administrative privileges so police seizure reports cannot be deleted. And the response from management was that he will limit administrative privileges to himself and one other ADA to act as backup in his absence. Again, we noticed bank reconciliations were not being completed and reviewed in a timely manner, and management response was that they will do that as quickly as possible after the monthly bank statements are released and all activities from the seizure fund account. So that will be addressed. Any other questions on that one?
I just have one question.
Yes.
And this has come up in the past too. The recommendation is made, management gives their response, we're going to do A, B, and C. Is it wait until the next time you do an audit, or is there a follow-up
The
period?
controllers follow up in 6 months to see if it's done, and then if not, then they report.
Thank you.
County constable audit. Council.
Just asking, because it was on some and not the other.
Okay, this is the magisterial district courts, and a couple of observations we found. There were some discrepancies in there in two of the 1099s which they produced, and we made recommendations to compare the results, compare the MDC's generated 1099 report with actually what they found was it resulted in a $6,817 underreported income with amounts ranging from $4 to $26.19. Our recommendation was that the court administration should be running the MDJ 1529 report to ensure accurate and complete information is compiled instead of requesting information from the MDC. The other observation they made was on the constable mileage reimbursement. We found that constables were receiving consistent mileage reimbursements in $10, $20, $25, and $40 increments for landlord, tenant, and civil complaints. We determined that the MDC is using a different amount for mileage estimates, when constables should only be reimbursed for actual mileage traveled and not in increments. The controller's office sent copies of the report to all magisterial district judges so they are aware of the issue. And then the other observation was constables are required to complete an annual Pennsylvania financial income interest statement, and it should be completed by May 1st of each year. And domestic relations may want to consider adding additional verbiage mentioned above in the 2020 contract when it's reviewed. And then one more was compliance. Again, all constables, all elected and municipal appointed public officials, including constables and deputy constables, are required to file an annual financial interest statement by May 1st. And there's a number of them that have not been doing it. 13% of constables did not file a financial interest statement for 2015 and 16. 31% were late filing their reports for 2015, and 24% they were late filing their financial interest statement for 2016. Now, we recommended a Northampton County Constable Handbook may be beneficial to clarify gray areas. A number of the counties across the Commonwealth already have constable handbooks that outlines duties, compensations, and instructions on completing constable cost sheets, codes of conduct, warrant procedures, and instructions when a constable leaves office. And constables were, and then management's response was constables are independent elected officials, and such are responsible for filing their own annual financial interest statements. Court administration is not responsible for their financial interest statements in any way. So they kind of threw that one back. I believe so. Any questions on that one?
Just so I understand
Yes.
correctly, are you saying that the council, one of the concerns was they were setting their own rate for mileage?
They were giving them, no, they were setting the mileage rate in increments, either 10, 20, or 40 miles, rather than the actual mileage.
So if the fellow went 16 miles, he put down 20.
Right, that's what they were doing.
Okay. Are we done with that one then? All right, let's move on to
Okay, internal controls. This was the independent audit report on applying agreed upon procedures, AUP. We reviewed cash collection work assignments to determine if proper segregation of duties is in place, and they found it adequate. They selected 5 receipts. One of the things they found, though, is when there was discrepancies on some of the deposit tickets. The totals were correct, but some were mixed with cash and checks. The totals were correct, but the number of cash and checks were different. So what we suggested is that they send the duplicate statement along with their deposit to the bank. So the bank can, if they find something like that, can make the change and send the adjusted deposit ticket back to us for records. Okay.
Now we're on to your hotel tax.
Okay, the whole tax, we have 5 of them here. I won't go over each one, but basically what we do, we go over the hotels and check their revenue. We determine if the proper remittance forms are being used, determine if late payments are being made, if they're delinquent with their payments, and determine if the taxable revenues, exempt revenues, and taxes due on report are accurate. What we found, sometimes the biggest change is, not the problem is the area of exempt revenues. There are a number of exemptions to the hotel tax. State employees, county employees taking a hotel for work business, work-related business, and another nonprofit organizations that are exempt from it. The problem, it seems to be, again from my background being in a hotel, somebody checks in a hotel and says, I work for a nonprofit organization. Well, that you may be tax exempt from the sales tax, but you're not tax exempt from the hotel tax. And you have this hotel front desk clerk who doesn't want to get in an argument with the client at the front of the hotel, who just says okay, and they don't charge him. That seems to be what we found in the audits of the hotels.
That's a general.
As a general, as we look at all of them, which is the number one thing that we find.
Any
Do we just have to keep? Well, we have to keep hitting them, and we find it, and we said, but that's something that the hotels. You know, you got a front desk clerk, you're up, and somebody's arguing with the front desk clerk, and he's just a young kid doing his job, and he says, okay, I won't charge you.
It's been an issue for years, and I don't know if there's any right or wrong way to approach it.
All right, so
that's it. Any other questions?
All right, so that's the end. Does anybody have anything else they want to discuss under finance?
Just one quick thing, since we went over the hotel tax. I noticed the other day Mike Stershik is retiring from Discover Lehigh Valley as the head. For those of you that know Mike, I think he's done a terrific job there, and I hope that they can find somebody suitable to work with. He's always been very responsive when we had any questions. And the other one is the Airbnb issue. I noticed this is now an issue in New Jersey. Are we still looking at that at all?
I was on the phone today with Lehigh County.
Okay.
We have the contract. I have all the contact people. The contract has been sent to the solicitor's office for review. Once they give the okay, and I talk to Airbnb on how to get that set up, my hope is that Airbnb will give us all the information to get us set up. At approximately the same time the solicitor blesses the contract, there's very little room for negotiation, and I hope to have an update to you very soon that we've executed a contract and we've started collecting money.
Excellent.
So the process has been started. And today I was on the phone with George Samuelson from Lehigh County to get all that information. And this was it was driven by Glenn Eckert, the controller in Lehigh County. And they were a little bit further ahead of the game. I couldn't get the last administration to move on it, so here I am moving on it. So.
Well, good. I mean, we've been talking about this for over 2 years now, so I know government moves slowly. But.
That was I think we've moved this pretty quickly, so hopefully we'll have something in short order. And Lehigh County just is collecting between $1,500 and $2,500 a month.
Wow.
So that gets you some grants, you know what I mean, for these small organizations that need it. I can't say they collect more than us because they do have more room nights and more rooms available, but I think we will see a healthy amount of revenue from that.
Won't build a bug dome.
What was that?
No, it's a good amount.
Yes.
It's a good amount.
Yeah.
All right. Any other further? Mr. Zaborski, you having fun yet in your new position? Okay. Motion to adjourn if we have no further business. All right. Motion made. We're adjourned. Thank you. I wonder how it's going to be trying to collect the Airbnb money. I mean,
The website does it for you.
oh, does it?